Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Music Podcast once again. Today, I am joined by Mychael Gabriel. Mychael is a singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, producer, engineer, etc., etc., etc. He does so much. Mychael has deep family roots in the Prince and Sheila E camps, so we're going to go over that a little bit. And as a proud Minneapolis native, he continues to carry that Minneapolis sound that we all love into the ears of future generations. Mychael has worked with legendary artists like Ringo Starr, Stevie Wonder, Snoop Dogg, Hans Zimmer, George Clinton, so many more. That list is so extensive. Mychael is currently celebrating the release of his latest full-length solo record, Genesis, and we are definitely going to talk about that great record. Mychael, it is a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you so much, Scott. Scott, you're making me blush. Oh my gosh. Oh,
It is incredible what you've accomplished in such a short time.
thank you.
So much, and so much great stuff. I put on this Genesis record and I get lost in it. It is a multi-genre type of thing. I hear a whole
Right.
bunch of different things in it. But I hear that Prince influence big time. That
Sure.
Kravitz influence, even
Yeah.
that George Clinton funk in there.
Yeah.
It's really
It's hard to hide it.
it's great.
Yeah.
This is the record a lot of us have been waiting for. It's a great record. And one thing I failed to mention in that introduction is you have a steady job as Sheila E's guitar player,
Yeah.
and her co-producer and engineer. So let's start at the beginning for you,
Sure.
because you have a unique story that not everybody can even fabricate, much less
Right.
about.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's start at the beginning. It's your mother and father meet on the Purple Rain tour, right?
That is correct. Yeah. So my father, Gilbert Davison, worked as Prince's personal security, and he ended up becoming his manager and president of Paisley Park. On the other side, my mother, Constance, she grew up with Sheila E. in the Bay Area. They were childhood friends. They moved to LA together. They had an apartment together, and she became Sheila's co-lyricist and tour manager. And so my two parents met while working, one in Prince's camp, the other in Sheila E.'s camp, on the Purple Rain World Tour. So I jokingly say I'm this like Purple Rain World Tour love child, so to speak. But yeah, then it because of that, music was just a driving force in my life from the very beginning.
Mhm.
And you have to kind of put yourself in my shoes. I'm viewing all of these sort of really unique things happening in my life, not really realizing how abnormal it was. Like it wasn't normal for Prince just to show up at anybody's house, or for like Sheila E. was everybody's godmother, or I'm taking a trip to Paisley Park, or we're going to concerts, or I'm just around all of this. I didn't appreciate the uniqueness, let's just say that, until I was a lot older and I understood that, oh wow, this is not normal,
Mhm.
and my parents were really great about fostering a love and a passion for music and musicianship. For example, we had like a drum set in our living room.
That is unusual.
Yeah,
Not
that's
every parent
unusual.
will allow that.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. And it didn't matter if it was noon or midnight. There was no time was off limit to go play the drums, or go make music, or just be creative. So they were great about fostering that.
Yeah.
So fast forward to, young adult years, late teen, young adult years. I realized that music was what I wanted to do, full time. I had a passion for songwriting. That was probably like the main thing for me, aside from just, guitar is my primary instrument, but aside from just playing, I had a passion for writing. And so I wanted to learn how to take my ideas that I had in my head and craft them into something real, that something like the records that I grew up listening to.
Right.
And so
Now,
I went to audio school here in Minneapolis, and Berklee College of Music as well.
okay.
You were gonna say something.
Yeah. And is there a catalyst for that thought that says, was there a switch that just clicked one day, or something you saw, something you heard? Because you've seen a lot of things with
Right.
great legendary musicians doing their thing. Was there something, an incident, or a time, or a sound that you heard that made you say, I want to do that. I can do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, happened early on for me. I mean, a big a big thing that had a huge impact on me was the Sign of the Times live concert film,
Mm,
and just like it kind of totally revolutionized the way I thought of like just life in general, you know.
yeah.
And seeing that, especially at such a young age, and I'm just like, that was like, I don't know, like the equivalent of like superhero, or like Superman,
Right.
or whatever that is. Like it was just one of those things where I was like, man, that is just amazing. It looks like everybody's having a great time, and like just the power of music and that unifying force. I was like, that's something I want to be a part of. And not to mention, the rock star thing with the guitar, and it's just wailing, and it's just like, it just seems like something so magical to me.
Mhm.
So
It is.
yeah, yeah. And so that was kind of like that's as close as you can get to having like a superpower in real life. Like, that's as close as you can get to me as a kid. I'm watching that. I'm like, that's as close as you can get to flying, or so
Right.
that's something that had an impact on me at a very, very early age. But I can't say that it was any just one thing that clicked. For me, music was something that's where I got a lot of my joy out of.
Right.
And so it just kind of seemed like, well, if I'm going to do something forever, it might as well be something that I really enjoy and have a passion for. Like, because I can sit in a room with my guitar for hours and hours on end, and like, seems like minutes have passed by, and
Yeah.
I was like, that would be kind of cool to do something in that realm, that I get joy out of.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, it
Yeah.
is. It's just great. There's a lot of kids want to play guitar. Once they get the guitar and sit on their bed, they don't want to practice for 4 or 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, so the trick, because I used to teach guitar, the trick I always tell people is like, you got to find the fun in it
yeah,
first. It's like, and whatever that is, for some people, it's like learning how to play their favorite song, and then that like light bulb goes off, and it's like, oh, this is possible, this is obtainable, it's not
right,
out of reach for me. For other people,
right.
it's like, okay, I need to learn a couple chords to get my own musical ideas out,
Hmm.
or or I want to be able to play with a band. I want to know what that cohesion is like, and once you find whatever that is that makes you passionate to play and practice more, you're going to play and practice more.
Yeah,
But, a lot of times, if it's so rigid, it's like, okay, you got to practice these scales, or you got to learn these, you got to read these notes, read the sheet music. Not that any of that is unimportant, but you got to find the fun first.
yeah, yeah, and that's for sure. And it's funny, you're around all this music, and your parents are involved in the industry, and there's so much music around you. And as fans and people from the outside, like I just talked to with Andrew Hagar, son
Hmm.
of Sammy Hagar. He's a singer, a guitar player. He does his thing. He's involved musically. Of course he is, right? He's
Right.
Sammy Hagar's son. You're involved. It's like we think on the outside that there's a magic touch. Ringo Starr touches your shoulder, and all of a sudden you can play and engineer and produce. You got to put in the work.
You do.
No matter who you are and who your friends are and who your family is, you have to put in the work. And you guys do that, Andrew, and all these
Hmm.
sons or daughters of uh, people in the industry. You've put in the work. You have extensive training in engineering and producing, and you're a multi-instrumentalist. I say that you do everything on this Genesis record, right?
Yeah, yeah. Everything that you hear is 100% me. And that was kind of by design too. Like, I said, okay, this is my first record I'm putting out. I want the listener to be able to just kind of swim in my world,
Yeah,
and get a taste of everything that I have to say on this record. And it has to come from me 100%.
man. And that is, that's a lot of work. People don't look past that.
Right.
Just because you have that background and you're surrounded by all of those great legends, you put in the work, is what I'm saying. This
Yeah.
does not come easy for anybody. I admire that. I love to
Thank you.
hear that you do it so well.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
did you spend time on the road as a smaller kid? Did you have interaction and or advice from Prince and Sheila, and kind of embracing, they could see your talent early on, I'm sure. Did you get like, I don't want to say training, but words of advice, hints on how to do this?
Yeah. So like directly on the road as a young kid, not exactly so much. Like when there was something local in town or something like that, we would participate in that. But at the same time, life on the road can be crazy, so as protective parents, they kind of they did their best to try to um
Child-proof it.
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, any anybody that's like even remotely familiar with that world will kind of understand what I mean, you
Right.
know. But yeah, I mean, so going to Paisley, and being in my young teen years, I would go out with Sheila a few times when she was out on the road with different acts, like the Ringo Starr and his all-star band. When he did that tour, the few times that she was a part of that band, I came out and just because she saw, that I had an interest in this and didn't know exactly where it was going to go, but it's like, okay, well, if this is something you want to do, I might as well kind of expose you to the realities of it, and if anybody's familiar with Sheila E, the song Glamorous Life. If anybody's familiar with Life on the Road, that's not always so glamorous either. Um,
That's for sure.
so when I was 16, I called Sheila up and I said, hey, I think this is what I want to do. Um, is it okay if I fly out to LA and just like almost as an internship, just kind of be a fly on the wall in the studio? I'm willing to help out and do whatever. And she was very gracious and actually kind of into the whole idea. And she said, yeah, why don't you come out? I had just finished audio school, and I had just finished a short stint at Berklee College of Music. And so I came out to her studio in North Hollywood, and I was cleaning up garbage cans, and she had a bunch of DAT tapes that needed transferring. She said, okay, you could do this, and just help out. And then her head engineer ended up leaving to go out on tour for a long stint. And she said, well, okay, this was about a month or two in. And she said, okay, well, I'm looking for somebody to help me with the studio, almost take it over as a head engineer. Do you know how to run any of this equipment? And I don't know if I was just naive or super eager, just so excited. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, I got this. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
And you
And
did.
and I
Did
did. I ended up becoming her head engineer. I've been working with Sheila for 20 years now. And in the very, very beginning, yeah. So you talk about, the wisdom, she had to impart. She was very patient with me in the very beginning, because as ambitious as I was, I was a kid. I didn't know everything. And we're all students of music and we're all students of the craft, so we're all continually learning. But she was very gracious with me in those early years, you know, um, allowing me to make mistakes, allowing me to learn from those mistakes, and kind of help steering me in the right direction. And that turned into a whole career for me, not just working with her, but working with other artists in film and television, and just kind of a snowball effect. And so fast forward to now, I've been her lead guitarist for about a decade. And just a wealth of different experiences that I'm so grateful to have had.
Man, that is so cool. And mom, being a friend of Sheila has to be so, so proud and
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a dream come true for her too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we always talk about that, like how just weird and how things kind of come full circle,
Yeah.
in sometimes the most unexpected ways.
That is just awesome. That is just awesome. Let's talk about the Genesis record. Love this record. Genesis. Immediately, first book of the Bible.
Yeah.
There is a biblical sense to this record, a spiritual sense.
Yeah.
In the beginning, let there be light. The first tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Madam,
Madam on Madam.
Madam,
Yeah.
Sunday Afternoon,
Yeah.
Faith.
Yeah.
This is a spiritual record. It's got an uplifting vibe to it.
Thank you.
It's a positive record. Was that the intention? When you were writing the record, did you just happen to write songs that were in that vein and then they fit together? Or did you say before you even started, I want to write a record that is spiritual, uplifting, positive, and frame it out like that?
Sure.
How did the writing go for that?
So I feel that like music is a spiritual experience.
Mhm.
And the thing that was a roadblock in me putting out a record for so long was I have a whole catalog of songs, like thousands of songs on hard drives.
That's so
And I
Prince-like,
well,
right?
I mean,
I
yeah, we have
mean,
I think it comes from having like a wide palette of like musical tastes, like
right.
in interests. And it was important for me to not just take, okay, I like this song, this song, this song, this song. Let's just put them together and call it a record.
Right.
Like I wanted it to have a theme, because I grew up, and I know you can relate to this as well, where nowadays we listen to just singles and they're on a playlist and that's it. I like listening to records front to back. I don't want to have to skip songs. I want to get the whole experience.
Yep.
And
Go on a
so
journey.
go on a journey, and
Yep.
and I feel like, going back to music being that spiritual sort of experience, a spiritual journey, every song on the record was really intentional. So even there's songs I was like, I want this song to be on the record. Ah, shoot, but I wrote it with these ideas in mind. Okay, I there's a puzzle piece missing. I guess I got to write a new song.
Okay.
So
Right.
about 80% of what you hear on the record is all new material. And only a few tracks, that I had previously recorded ended up on this final record. So the whole idea with Genesis is that, yes, it is part biblical allegory, but it's also an origin story for myself. And that's why it's a multi-genre album by design, because it's a way for me to say, hey, I have a bunch of different musical tastes. Here's a flavor of each, little Baskin Robbins sort of situation.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
And what's really cool about that is you would think maybe the record didn't sound cohesive, or
right,
it might, well, I like this, but I don't like this. It's not my thing.
right,
It's not that at all.
right.
It is a journey. The songs flow one to another.
Thank you.
When you're ready to come down, it comes down. There's a great sequencing to this record. And it's all you. It never departs from what you do, even though it is a multi-genre record, which is extremely difficult. I've come across records that try to do this, and I get about 50-60% of it where it
Right.
really works.
Hmm.
This whole thing works.
Thank you.
It is just, it's immaculate the way it goes from song to song, and it's a one piece of art when you put it all together. Very difficult to do. Admire what you did here. This is
Thank you so much.
it is such a great record. What's the main thing you'd like people to come away with after hearing it? Well, let me tell you what I came away. I
Sure.
came away with that positive vibe. A vibe. Not just because the songs are, minor key, upbeat, that kind of thing. It's
Hmm.
not so much I guess it's musical, but I was drawn in and given a positive experience. Is that what you'd like people to take away from this record?
Yeah, yeah. So there's kind of a mantra that I would just repeat to myself throughout the record, and I'm sure it kind of bled through in the music. But I've always wanted to put out a record, right? And sometimes there's that thing that we always wanted to do that we go, well, I don't know, maybe it's not time, or maybe that time has passed, or whatever. And I just kept saying, you know what? It doesn't matter what you didn't do before. You're doing it now.
Yep.
And I like to think of this record as a first step in a larger journey, for me musically, but also for anybody else listening to it, like go and do that thing that you've always wanted to do, um, because you can,
Right.
as long as there's still breath in our lungs, like let's keep moving forward in a positive direction.
That's a beautiful thing, man. It's a
Thanks, man.
beautiful sentiment in life, and it's a beautiful sound to accompany that sentiment.
Thank you.
It's great. You know, one of the first things I noticed was the various styles and genres. Do you see yourself continuing with that in the future? This is the first record, and you wanted to be sure that people understood that you had
Right.
different influences and things. Uh, the next records down the road, do you see yourself exploring maybe even more genres, maybe a hard rock or a rap or a jazz? Do you see yourself going in that direction, or maybe narrowing it and a little more focused, maybe?
Right. I'm glad you asked that question because I'm putting together those records right now. Like it's even so it all starts with the feeling and the sentiment that is the most important. That kind of supersedes genre, supersedes like what instruments I'm going to use, what the record's going to sound like. I anytime I write something, whether it's a song, whether I'm co-producing, whether I'm co-writing, whether putting together an album, I'm always thinking in terms of sentiment, like how do I want to feel listening to this? How do I want someone else to feel? And so I think in a lot of ways I'm in the discovery process still on how I want to represent myself in these upcoming records. I thought so without saying too much. So the next record is called Exodus.
All right.
X,
You got a
X
name for
yeah,
it?
yeah, right,
All
right, right.
right. It's
So,
awesome.
so I'm working on that right now, and I'm working on a deluxe version of Genesis to include a few more songs that ended up on the cutting room floor, just to kind of, you know, just to give people more to chew on. But in formulating the next record, I'm like, okay, do I want to stick to just kind of one genre, and then maybe from then on the records will kind of be exclusive to kind of one sound,
Right.
or do I want it to be a blend? And when you're just in that creative flow, you just gotta just let it all out. And
Right.
so what comes of the end final product is still to be determined, but either way I'm excited.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah.
That is great news. That is really great news. And it's great that you're so prolific in your writing process. Hard drives full of songs.
Yeah.
We always heard that with Prince. That's exactly what that makes me think of. He's supposed to have this huge library of
Yeah, he
stuff.
does. I mean, he that's what he ate and breathed and everything.
Yeah,
And I mean, I have to give credit where credit is due. Like a lot of my philosophy comes from that, because I just thought that I just grew up thinking that that was normal. I grew up thinking that, oh, playing every instrument yourself and all that is just normal. Having a huge catalog of songs and just continuing to write and write and write and write and write, that's normal. And then you fast forward and you go, oh, he was like the Mozart of our time. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he's
Wow.
like one in a million, you know.
Yep. Yep.
Never be another like that, dude.
No, he just crazy.
Yeah.
And you know what's it's great that you had that mindset. Because you didn't set boundaries for yourself.
Right.
You know, you got the highest bar and you just thought that reaching it was a thing. So it's a great thing. Definitely. Uh Michael Gabriel. I'm gonna tell this to people that may not have heard your name.
Mhm.
Uh, what do I play? Where do I start for somebody? I'm gonna play something. I push that play button. What's the first thing they should hear when they're introduced to Michael Gabriel music?
Hmm. That's a good question. I don't know. I'm kind of biased. I don't know. Just pick anything. I love Celebrate, you know. It's the Minneapolis Sound. It's just something that it just happens, you know. It's
For
not
you, it
something.
does.
Yeah, I was actually kind of self-conscious at first because I was like, I don't want people to get the wrong idea and feel that this is contrived or anything like that. But it just got to a point where it's like I can't really hide that. It just kind of comes out. And so let me just write a song fully embracing that whole vibe.
Yep.
And I was so happy with how that turned out. And there's another track that's going to be on the deluxe version of Genesis, called Rejoice. And that's another kind of Minneapolis sound influence that I'm excited to share with everybody.
Cool, cool. I'm in Chicago and I get up that way.
Yeah.
Not that far and been to Paisley Park. There is a vibe up there, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's in the air.
Yeah.
It's
Something in the water. We got 10,000 lakes over here.
yeah, yeah. Maybe that's what it is. It is a cool thing to be surrounded by, though.
Yeah.
It is, like you say. I mean, I can imagine if I was a musician doing what you do. You can't avoid it. It's a thing.
Right.
It's really cool. We love hearing it too. You do
Thank
it
you.
so well too. Um, you have a beautiful woman by your side. You have beautiful family, beautiful, loving parents that you adore. It's so obvious. Looking at your Facebook posts and things
Yeah.
like life seems to be very fulfilling for you. Is there anything that you want for in life? Obviously you want to forward your career and do your music, but is there something that even as a kid, that you wanted to do that you haven't had a chance to?
I'm just taking it one day at a time, and just trying as the older I get, the more I realize how finite time is.
Hmm.
And so just trying to live in the moment is important for me. Wherever I'm at, just kind of trying to commit 100% of my focus on that. Not that future planning isn't important,
Of course.
not that, remembering and learning from the past, especially our past mistakes, aren't important, but just really giving it all. And whatever you're doing in the moment, I feel like is so can be overlooked a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at for me right now. I feel that it's just important for me to give 110% in whatever I'm doing in that moment.
That's cool.
And it seems to be working out okay.
I was gonna say your moment right now is it looks pretty good from here. It's great. It's great to see your smiling face and your family and everybody just seems very happy and fulfilled and positive.
Thank you.
And, it's a great thing to see for
Yeah,
sure.
thank you.
Um, you've been around everybody, all these legendary stars, and had a chance to communicate with them and learn from them and watch them. Is there anybody that you would like to sit down with and have a conversation
Hmm.
that you haven't yet?
Yeah. So many. I'm trying to pick one. So a lot of mine are like musician types, like I don't know if a whole lot of people would recognize the names, but I like Joe Satriani. I'd love to just sit down and he's a huge hero of mine. Um, uh in some up and coming cats that are doing incredible work musically on their instrument, Mateus Asato, he's incredible. um Artists, I love a French producer, his name is Kavinsky. He does a lot of Kavinsky is his name,
Okay.
and he does a lot of sort of like 80s sort of retro vibe sounding tracks. It's
Okay.
really cool. I love Adele. Always loved Adele. So
That
I mean,
tone, my
yeah,
God, that tone.
yeah. I mean, and even just to sit down and have a conversation with any of these people would be
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And I think that's great. You've had so many opportunities, like I say, with so many icons of the industry, and you still want for more learning and more discussion, and that's
So much of that comes from Sheila, actually, and just her philosophy. It's not always just like practical music advice that you get from either the people that I've worked with, but especially Sheila, being that my relationship with her is what it is. And,
right.
on a personal level and on a work level, like we're so close. But something I've learned from her that stuck with me is, she will be the first to say I'm forever a student of music. And I've taken that philosophy as well, because it's a good mindset to have. Because if you go, well, oh, I know everything, then you're not
Right.
open to evolving. And I feel like just life is about evolution of self. And so I'm eager to always learn, always eager to, get my hands dirty, get my fingers, underneath, whatever it is that we're working on at the time, and trying to better myself.
Nah, it's great, man. It's just so great to hear those things. A level head gets you a long way too,
Right.
especially in the music industry.
Yeah, it's true.
um, where do we find you? You got some tour dates with Sheila E.
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Uh, do you plan to tour yourself?
I do. I do. We're lining up some
Nice.
dates right now. As a matter of fact, I'm playing the Minnesota State Fair on August 26th and 27th. And I'm really, really excited about that. So yeah, all the Sheila's dates, you can find them on SheilaE.com. My tour dates you can find on Mychael Gabriel, Michael with a Y, MychaelGabriel.com. And just on social, I try to be active enough where, I could get the information out there. So just look for my social handle, Mychael Gabriel. It's all really easy, just my name.
That's cool,
And
Michael.
yeah,
Michael with a Y.
yeah.
Ever ask mom and dad why the Y?
Just because,
Just because.
because
That's right.
because they can. Yeah, and actually, fun fact, my full first name is Sir Michael.
Nice.
Yeah, and so it's proven sometimes complicated. I go to the airport and they're like, you're really knighted? I'm like, yeah, I saved the queen from choking on a grape. And so they're like, really? I'm like, no, it's just a legal part of my first name. Yeah.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That is cool. We'll find you online. We'll find you on tour. Like I say, I'm in Chicago. That Minnesota State Fair. That sounds great, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, man.
Love to come
Thank
out
you.
and see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And next time I'm in Chicago, I'll be sure to hit you up. And
yeah, please do.
yeah.
Please do. I
Yeah.
don't want to miss it for sure. And I'll be checking, man. And Exodus on its way one of these years.
Yes.
Please come back and we'll talk about that one too.
All right. Sounds good, Scott.
All right. Take care, Michael. It's so
Thank
great
you.
to have you,
Thank
man.
you, everybody.